Testing. I think that's all right. No, we'll just make sure it's working, and then we will proceed. All right, and now this thing. Oh. All right, everyone. So we're on our, can you all hear me? Yes, all right. We're on our third week. We're getting down to business. Is there anyone here who is here for the first time? Wonderful. Unless your hand was not up. No, you are familiar. Okay. The first list of admits, many of you got emails from me that you're admitted to the class. It won't show up on your telebears until the person in our student services office, who is the only one in the department who can actually physically go boink and get you in, does it. So, you know, give it a chance to show up before you worry. Now, there can be some more people admitted. Not as large a group, but there are going to be more spaces because people are changing around and dropping, and that's already happened. And I have discovered something. I mean, we all went to great lengths not to have the admission, you know, prejudiced against anyone except people who weren't here, you know, the ghosts. And I realized that the whole procedure is severely prejudiced against one class of people, pessimists. And in fact, your body is kind of also prejudiced against pessimism and, you know, lots of institutions. So if you're here and you didn't get the email, which might be as simple as your email bounced, and you want in, don't give up and, you know, talk to your GSI or me or whatever. And so, because there is going to be another little group going in. So also, if you're in the class and you misunderstood about filling out these obnoxious forms, which you're not going to get any more of, and you didn't after the first time, that is those who are enrolled, you will get an ominous sounding email from me saying, all you need to do, if you're here and you misunderstood, is just email me back and say, oh, I didn't realize I was supposed to turn it in again, and nothing bad will happen to you. So anyway, that's it for enrollment. And now we come to your laboratory for understanding stuff in the class. Because if you will remember, this is, you know, the arrow pointing of these concepts is towards you and towards your mind, but your mind as it is observed, or as it is observed is kind of a, we start running into language problems at this point, as it is known by you when you get intimate with it, or in the terminology of the tradition, when you can be mindful about it. So that's what meditation is for. And for some of you who are thinking about this in terms of Western religions, try thinking about it this way. And don't think about it this way if you find it obnoxious, but that you're getting close to the creation with mindfulness. All right, so the traditional prelude to starting meditation is to contemplate the rarity and the auspiciousness of your good fortune in being able to do a thing like this. And certainly the unusualness of this may have struck you, that here we are, you know, at a university, and poof, this thing pops up in the middle of it. And, you know, whatever you think about the lack of certain kinds of freedoms around us, it's really unusual in history and across the world that we're in a place with enough freedom that all kinds of stuff from the whole world is here and being taught here. You know, this is called the university, and that's because it's sort of a picture of everything that we know about in our universe as we define the universe. And if an anthropologist from Mars were to come down, and maybe there are some, they wouldn't have to grab a lot of you and interview you extensively on what kinds of things are there in the universe. And you would say, well, there are town things and forest things, whatever. And they'd have to figure it out. All they have to do is come here and get a catalog. And it outlines, it even has a nice structure, you know, a logical structure of the superordinates and within each thing of all the things that we think exist. And they're all side by side interacting with each other in your minds. You know, you go to different classes and things, and the different things and the things talk to each other, as you may have noticed. And right at this very moment, you know, in each of these little cubicles, there's a different class, and that's what's happening. And so there's this opportunity here. And one other little tidbit about that, there was just yesterday, someone from a local meditation center was saying how their teacher, there were a few students of this teacher, and he visited the country, and he came to San Francisco, and they drove him across the bridge, and he looked around and said, oh, you know, good place, the mountains and the sky and the water and everything. Proper place. And then they started, they came to Oxford Street, and they passed the extension center and started driving along. And he said, oh, what's that place? Lots of good spirit activity there. You know, what's going on? And that's us. So, all right. So before we start our technique itself, there are some basic attitudes about meditation that I want to tell you today quickly. And you'll say, you know, that you won't really believe me, but they're going to come back all semester. But just to kind of lay the ground. This is discovering things about your mind rather than inventing them. So it's finding what's there, not really learning a new skill. A lot of the folks who try to make meditation and Buddhism very scientific these days are talking about it as a skill, and they talk about lamas, as, you know, the Tibetan monks and teachers, as being the gold medalists of meditation. Okay. Oh. No, I mean, don't think that you're starting Olympic training. It's, in fact, even find is a little too strong, because that implies, you know, that you're going out and settle into is more of the idea. Or a traditional term is become familiar with, familiarization. And this kind of has a new age, you know, finding yourself tone to it, perhaps. Well, you know, Buddhists can kind of laugh at that. I got that from a Buddhist magazine called Tricycle. Tricycle. It itself is kind of a pun. All right. The second attitude is inclusiveness. This is, now you're not going to believe me. I'm not sure I believe me, really, but it's true. This is the one activity you can't do wrong, and I'll tell you that today, because anything, once we start the meditation, anything you do with your mind is going to be part of this technique, and that's why I chose this technique, or one of the reasons to start. And to include with friendliness whatever is there to include. There are many representations of the Buddha, and this is one that's, I hope that, see the little smile, it's supposed to be, it looks more friendly here than when it's that big, but you know. So it's kind of, you're finding and you're including and you're making friends with, because we start out kind of afraid to walk around in our minds after dark, you know, and so this is to do something about that. Okay, the technique, it's called Vipassana, and it's a classic basic mindfulness technique, and it's used, it's the main technique in modern Theravada Buddhism, and as far as scholars can tell, this, what for early Buddhism, or when Buddhism started, this, something like this was the main technique, and you have a translation in your reader of part of the original text that talks about this. And for those who like definitions, I'll give you some kind of useless definitions. Vipassana is a Pali word. That's the language in which the earliest texts have come down to us in, and it means insight or clear seeing or clear comprehension. One of your readings translates it that way. But of course, I mean, that helps a little bit, because then you're not stumbling over a foreign word, but we have to find out what that means. And mindfulness is being present with your experience as it occurs, but remember, it's not pointing to a conceptual network, so that's why we have meditation. And just a little warning, put this in parentheses in your mind, the meaning of these terms, that is the, you know, remember the meaning as opposed to the words, changes, and it changes as Buddhism evolves historically, so they may be using similar words, but they're meaning slightly different things. And as your personal experience evolves or changes, or whatever's going to happen to it, what these things seem to mean will also change. Yes? That is, you joined us last time, and when you see the web of the first lecture, we had a whole thing about it. Remember, people? Okay, it's contrasting concepts here that are pointing to experience with sort of academic concepts and how they work with each other. So there's the classic text of the sutta, which is the Pali word for these kinds of texts, that you've got some of in your reader. And presumably people were meditating using this. And then there was a whole colonial takeover of the Southeast Asian region, and meditation was not, the British and French, you know, the 18th, 19th century didn't give a high honor to meditation, and it dropped out. In fact, they were very against the whole thing. And then in the post-colonial period, there was a revival and explosion of interest in this. And so the techniques that are around now come from that, of people bringing it back and doing it. There are two main types of Vipassana. There's something called a body scan. Some of you may have done it. I know on your things that you wrote about interest in the class, some of you have done Vipassana, done retreats. And what we'll be doing, which is a combination of two things, and it's in the tradition of Maharishi Sayadaw. Now, getting down to the meditation itself. I assume I can. Yes? A question about this? Or just? Well, that's what I'm going to talk about next, the what we'll be doing. As you'll discover, this is not a body scan. It's going to be different. Okay, now we're getting to serious matters. This Buddhist meditation as a whole, there are two aspects that it's getting at. They're both aspects of mindfulness. One is called shamatha, or it's spelled slightly differently in the Pali. And one translation of that is peace, or peaceful abiding. And the idea is that mind will naturally settle. It abides peacefully with whatever its contents are. This is the kind of meditation that, at the moment, somebody's made a distinction between concentration and mindfulness, and people are kind of going off, psychologists are going off on that. It's not concentration in the, oh, I'm concentrating form. It's settling down into the mind, just, it's using often a single object of meditation that you're going to stay with to allow the mind to find its own capacity to be mindful, to be with things. And we'll see how that works in a minute. The second part is wisdom or insight. And the idea here is that one's mind naturally has insight into what it is and stuff about its contents. And by the way, this is all an outline of my lectures. That is just an outline, not the whole content, but this kind of stuff is posted on, or will be posted on the website. So if you miss something, it'll be there. And when we start the meditation, you'll have your eyes closed, so there's not going to be anything up here, or you'll feel a terrible conflict, but it'll appear on the website. Now, these are not really separable, but different techniques emphasize different aspects, and our lovely technique, our kind of genius technique, does both, so that in this, we have the problem that you're not going to spend lifetimes doing this stuff. You're going to spend like 5 minutes when we get started, and a little bit in sections, and you'll be encouraged to do it at home. So you know how to get across as much as possible. And so here's a technique that will show you both aspects. So let's do some. And in the past, some students have complained about, oh, but we're sitting here in a classroom, right? And so this is going to be, I mean, it's your mind. If you want to, you can imagine that you're in a glorious meditation hall, you know, or that, oh, that's too dark. Well, it's a sylvan setting, and those are beautiful flowers. Or, because it's kind of your imagination anyhow when your eyes are closed, that you're right here in the classroom. All right, so traditionally, this technique is done with the eyes closed. If you are used to doing some meditation with your eyes open and you want to have them open, yeah, be my guest. Later on, you'll have techniques that go with other parts of the class that are traditionally done with the eyes open. So your choice, you can close your eyes. And the first part of this is that you have a body, you're in your body, right? There's no way that really you can get away with the body, get away from it. So ideally, be comfortable. If you're not comfortable, the few people that are sitting on the floor, there are seats available, and if you want to take this moment to find one, go ahead. So comfortable and upright. As upright as is comfortable in these ergonomically challenged chairs that you're in. Okay, why upright? Well, if you remember from last time, I talked about the energy aspect of the body. And some people do a thing called yoga. Actually, we all do yoga all the time. Any position of